Well, it seems. Hang in there, you guys. I guess we're
y'all do the same. Thank you.
Take
Nice
care.
Bye-bye. Okay, you do the same.
Take care.
All the best to Brenda.
Yeah, she's listening, so she got that. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
Good.
Rup, is she home?
Yeah,
is she home now?
Yeah, I picked her up right after you left.
Good. Okay. Fantastic.
She's been home.
Great.
Home a couple hours.
Good deal. Okay.
She's acting like she never went to the hospital. Amazing. I'm going to mute myself, not like John Bradshaw. I don't want you guys hear me when I talk to my wife.
Take care. Okay. See ya.
Yeah. Got a real long message from Connie Humphrey.
Yeah, I read it. It sounds like he's doing okay, but if he can't move around, you have to come to nursing.
Yeah. Steve, do you hear the speaker?
I don't either.
No
Not very well.
Talk about the Pledge of Allegiance. And for some of you younger whippersnappers, you may not know who Ed Skelton is, but comedian. And this is about 3 or 4 minutes, and it's about the pledge has been made since he did this.
Girls recite the Pledge of Allegiance all semester.
He's talking to kids.
And it seems.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. I'll do it then. Oops. So anyway, what he does is he goes through the Pledge of Allegiance. It seems so rote, like you're just kind of going through the motions and everything, and it doesn't really mean anything to you. So what he does is he said, I pledge allegiance, and he takes each word and says, I, me, a committee of one, etc., and goes through every word of the Pledge of Allegiance. And then he makes the comment about when he was a kid, there were 48 states. Said nowadays, of course, we've had 2 more states added for 50, and 2 more words added to the Pledge of Allegiance. And those 2 words were under God. And one thing that we do when we say the Pledge of Allegiance, you may notice this at other places where we will say there'll be a God. Listen to how we're going to say the pledge now, because it's been brought up before, and one nation under God should all be together. So shall we say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, David. We have Rachel Hopkins to introduce our guest. Okay. I was told I could hold the mic since it's hard for me to bend over since I'm so tall. So welcome. We have a lot of guests today. I'm happy to welcome my friend Jennifer back second time. So Jennifer McPherson, we please sing, she'll join the Kiwanis. We also have Allison Netting. Her sponsor has been Spiker, if you'll both stand. Allison is joining us from St. Anne's Episcopal Day School. We have Catherine McElfresh, and her guest is, it says, Jeff Vick. From Presbyterian Community Center, that is PCC, we have Nicole Jennings and Ebony Hurt. Welcome. They are guests of Glenn Pierce. We also have Steve Stinson joining us with his company, 3 Balloons, and John Montgomery is his host. Welcome, Steve. And that's it.
Thank you, Rachel. Now we have 2 grant presentations. So Bob Haberman. Oh, there you are.
And thank you, Vice President Joyce. And we're glad to have you here today. We have 2 today. The first one is from St. Anne's Episcopal Day. And Ben, would you please come out for a sponsor and tell us a little bit about what you're going to do with the money, and then we'll have a photo after that. Good afternoon. St. Anne's Episcopal Day School is a mission and ministry of St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Salem. They have 75 kids in an environment this is a preschool program. And the stories that we hear about these kids is when they finally get to schools, what a difference having a strict curriculum-based program is for preschool. Allison is the director of that school, and she does a wonderful job. She's got really gifted teachers and a very happy program. So here's Allison.
Thank you, Ben. It is a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you so much for the invitation. On behalf of Episcopal Day School, I express my deepest gratitude for your support. The funds that you are providing for the school will be going into our scholarships fund. When the school was founded in 1988, their family that has a desire for an early Christian education would have the opportunity to have that. And so the scholarship fund was established. I would like to tell you about one of the students who is going to be receiving your part of your funds this school year. I had a father contact autistic, had completed his treatment plan at the treatment center that he had been attending for quite some time. This is very exciting, and the parents are thrilled to happen next for their child. They knew he needed something to help prepare him for the kindergarten setting that he would eventually be in, but they weren't sure what to do next. They asked the therapist for some advice, and they suggested our school, which is a very at St. Anne's, have the mindset that each child is a child of God and deserves all the love and respect and care in the world. And so I started working with this family to try to get this child integrated into our school, and we were really successful. He was doing very well, not have the funds to pay for a private Christian school. And so I told him about our scholarship program, and they have since applied, and the child is enrolled, and the child is thriving. This child has gotten used to our schedule, has made friends, is developing in all kinds of ways, spiritually, socially, academically, fine motor, gross motor, all the things that we look for a development of a child. We are watching this child excel. So it's very exciting. And you are playing a role in the development of that child. You are a blessing to this family because they are able to be participating at St. Anne's. So the funds that you're providing will not only go to this child, but a couple of others who have also needed financial support this year. Father lost his job, etc. There are special situations that have arisen. And when they are able to apply for a scholarship, they are able, while their life at home may be tumultuous, while things are changing as life can be, the school can be consistent and provide a safe and secure place for them to be. So I thank you very, very much. And again, thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Here comes the cameraman.
Thank you.
See you next year.
Thank you so much.
And our second grant this afternoon is for the PCC. And would Nicole and Ebony please come up and tell us a little bit about the center, and then tell us a little bit, and finally we'll again have a photo. So Nicole.
Height issue is different for me. My name is Nicole Jennings, and I am the Executive Director of the Presbyterian Community Center. A little bit about P1958. In response to the Bisco's plant, Norfolk and Western layoffs in that particular area. They were tumultuously affected from the economic boom of housing to having no job. PCC was developed to provide financial services as well as a food pantry. From there, we've expanded our services to Pathways for Youth. However, what helps to stabilize our families in Southeast Roanoke is our emergency services, which is so important from our rising costs of utilities and rent and food. Ebony Hurt is my Director of Director of Emergency Services, and she's going to tell you a little bit about what emergency services is.
Good afternoon. My name is Ebony Hurt, and I've been with PCC for going on 11 years now, and it is a growing demand for our financial aid. Our mission is to always prevent homelessness and food insecurity. Right now, we are seeing a growing demand in 5 to quarter state notices for prevention of homelessness and utility bills. Typically, we usually will see around $100 to $200 of electric bills, and not anymore. We're getting into the $500 to $1,000. And with our financial services, we also have our food pantry. One of our biggest sources is from Feeding Southwest Virginia. That is from local pantries and individuals who would donate as a part of some of our hunger busters, trick or treat for others to eat, and then also our Super Bowl. So that's a little bit about emergency services and what we plan to do with the grant funding. As this is a growing demand, Nicole will share some of our numbers that we have witnessed since last year.
In 2024, we served more than 285 families, which included 95 children with emergency service funding for rent and utilities. In the food pantry, families can come once a month, which is an increase over what it normally was up to 60 days. So we have made that more accessible on a more regular basis. Last year was with 620 seniors and 965 children. The funds that you're providing us with this grant will help us to sustain these families as the cost. So we thank you so much for this grant and all that it will provide for our families in Southeast. Also, I welcome you once the ribbon cutting is done in our new building to come and take a tour and visit us as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And then best wishes.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Bob. Whoa, sorry. We have a treat today. We have an autobiography by our very own Randy Myers. Randy?
Thank you. Get this microphone right. Everybody hear me? Okay, good. I'm Randy Myers. I was born in North Carolina, but I consider myself as a Virginian. I've lived in Roanoke for 2.5 years. But before that, my father was raised in Galax on the New River. My great-grandmother and great-aunt lived in a log cabin there. There was no running water or electricity. My great-aunt would get up in the morning to start a fire in the wood stove, so the visited and seen lifestyle that was common in the 19th century, but it's pretty much gone now. I'm still impressed with these two self-sufficient, independent women who lived out in the woods and had a good life. Things changed, and I went to college at UNC Charlotte. I were in agreement that a decision needed to be made. So I went home and talked to my dad and said I wasn't getting much out of college and thought I would take a couple of semesters off. He said that was fine. And then he asked me if I had thought about where I was going to live. So that fall back at school, I had a meeting with myself for years. When I graduated, the economy was in the toilet. So I went to graduate school instead at Wake Forest. Things changed. After graduation, I went to work for General Motors in Michigan. When it turned, like it does here, 2 months later, I had cabin fever. The following winter, I took up cross-country skiing and ice fishing. Since then, I found outdoor activities to be an important part of my mental health. If you can enjoy sitting in a hole in the ice, everything else is a piece of cake. GM made changes to deal with competition. I disagreed with most of the decisions and used the opportunity to return to North Carolina. I went to work for Gravely in the community colleges. I soon found a full-time position teaching accounting and business administration. It was the best job I ever had. I had 2 daughters at this time and began considering family responsibilities, teaching. With a friend, I developed a business plan to design and manufacture commercial landscaping equipment. We received funding from a company called Cadet. Unfortunately, our product was not successful. I'm a financial person, and I spent the next 25 years responsible for finance and information technologies at 2 separate companies. My oldest daughter and her husband moved to Roanoke when he entered the first year of classes at Virginia Tech Medical School. And when the grandkids were born, I came more often. Things changed. During COVID, I spent more time in Roanoke. Finally, at the end of 2022, I moved here and took on a larger role of our family. About a year ago, I moved downtown. I feel very fortunate organization and the other charities in town. I've been impressed with willingness to give and participate in this beautiful setting in the Blue Ridge Mountains. I've tried to look into the future to see what Roanoke and I will look like. The only thing I'm sure of is that things will change. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I must be louder than anybody. Okay. It's gotten louder. Okay, we have announcements. We have had a request for Dan Chitwood's Valentines. So Dan Chitwood, make us some more Valentines. So if you've been here in the past, you know Dan Chitwood makes Valentines. It's a just donate what you would like to have a week. If you have something special you want, you could tell John and John could tell him and he could go ahead and be making it. But if you haven't been here before, Dan Chitwood is a man of many talents. And one of them is his artwork. He makes hand-painted Valentines and he will personalize them for you. He also will have just some generic ones that you could get as well. So you can donate the money for it. Dan doesn't take anything. He gives all the money back to Kiwanis, and we use that money in our administration budget. So tuck some money in your pocket, Valentines. Also, Lois would like to come and recognize our West End Center Party supporters.
Thank you, Joyce. And before I do that, I have one other announcement to make. Following on the tails of Mike's event for us in February. So mark your calendars for Tuesday, the 25th. We're going to go back over to the Harrison Museum across the street, and it's a combination. So we're going to celebrate Valentine's. We're going to celebrate our Kiwanis friendships. So it's a time for socializing. We're going to have dancing. It's going to be a good time. And we will have sign-up sheets starting next week. So you'll hear more about that. I know that I absolutely love the West End Christmas party. It's my favorite event of the year. And I just have to give kudos to everybody who helped make that a success. So first of all, our sponsors, we had corporate sponsors, but as we have all of our corporate sponsors again, excuse me. And so I appealed to all of you, and there were so many of you extremely generous Kiwanians who donated to the cause. So I appreciate that. If you donated, can you please stand up and be recognized? Donated financially. There's a lot of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then our corporate sponsors, we had Don Wilson. Don here? Ah. Don buys lunches every year for all the kids. So he did that again. And Amy and her team did such a great job with the lunch. We have Elk Hill Advisors and the Lionberger family, who were our corporate sponsors. Tom, did I miss anybody? Okay. And Tom and Ben. And then our shopping and our wrapping, as Reef Kessler did a great brag buck last week. We could not have done it without our key clubbers. And his wife, Reed was there wrangling up all the key clubbers, so that was huge. Sherry Dillon, Mike Obrachta, Joe Lemmer, Joyce Montgomery, John Montgomery, Mike Bell, and Dave Farnham. So thank you all for that. And we had 43 kids this year. And guess how many shoppers we had? 43. So that was a good thing too, because we usually have to double up. So I call that a God thing, because we had just as many shoppers as me. Reef Kessler again secured the Raleigh Court Presbyterian Church, was a great place for that. A lot smaller team from the Kiwanis. We had Gene Bollendorf, Reef Kessler and his wife Susan, Sherry Dillon, and James Matthews, who helped with the wrapping that night. And literally, had we not had the key clubbers from Patrick Henry, we would have been there all night. I promise you. The five of us are not that good. So, all right. And then I just wanted to highlight some of the fun things. And if you were here, hopefully you saw all of it. But some of the behind the things, that the new Santa suit, we were able to do that this year. So very excited about that. The Lionbergers retired Santa suit, and for sentimental reasons wanted to keep it, which I totally understand. But we were able to buy a new Santa suit this year. We were also able to give gift cards to all of the staff at West End. So I think that was a nice touch for us to show our appreciation to all the teachers who come and help wrangle all the kids that day. So that was fun. Always, it was wonderful music that day. So thank you so much. One of the things that I loved seeing, we had, back to John and our shopping, we had the most money per child. So that's just incredible. So thank you. And because of that, I loved seeing the bags full of toys that we had some elves who helped the kids get the bags from Santa to the table. So thank you, our Kiwanis elves. And if any of you all did not see Bob Haberman that day, he was at a table completely by himself.
His kisses, okay? Oh,
He did a great job. We had a great time. Those kids were running up Art Feel Good. Bob leading the way there, as did everybody else, but Bob was at a table by himself. And then I have to say, I think the most fun for me as the coordinator this year was at the end of the day, and I asked Santa, Preston, to get the Santa suit back so I could keep it until next year onto it. And I was like, yeah. So I think we have a Santa moving forward. So that was a huge thing for me too. And then John, we got a thank you card from the West End. It's nice for them to send us a card thanking us for the Christmas that all those kids had. So again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for everybody and everything that you did to make that a successful party. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. Real quick, we have Harry Zuloff has a membership meeting immediately after today's program. It says here 1:35, so don't move. 7:30 Friday morning at Mill Mountain Coffee on Starkey. We have the Day of Prayer Zoom meeting on Friday at 9:30. That's a Zoom meeting. Also, next week, the deadline for the foundation fundraiser to get your money into the foundation. You can write a check for 105 or more, and your name will go in the hat for a prize at the end. All right. Oh, has everybody seen the card? Looks like yes. All right, we have just a few minutes. Okay, who wants a cure for the winter doldrums? We got it here from the Kiwanis Nature Park. And this works. It really is fun. So just get a milk carton, chop it in half like that, and get some duct tape, get some soil. I have seeds for you. I told everybody, don't eat these things to grow over the winter. You put it outside. You want to tie it down maybe to a fence because otherwise it'll blow away, right? Don Witt, who had to go retrieving his to grow plants. You could keep them yourself, or you could bring it to our spring planting day in May. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm Sherry Hartman right over there.
My name is Harry Zuloff. I am a graduate of the Ohio State University. And I just want to say, you know, I had a Kiwanian come to me today and said, "Oh, did you do a game?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "Who won?" I'm just here to say that the Ohio State University is the national champion in football.
I went to Notre Dame and I watched the game. It lasted until it was darn near midnight.
Yeah,
Wasn't it?
it was.
Yeah. And I stayed up watching it, and I was hoping all the way through the game and I was going to come up and brag on the Ohio State Buckeyes for whooping up on Notre Dame Irish. You did well.
Gary Dirk, we got to be a little bit more serious at the moment. I'm here to talk about Bart Wilner. You know, Bart has sold K-Pep tickets, been a great contributor. When he married Lynn, who was the daughter of Jim Blair, who I believe was on our board. I know he's on our board. I'm not sure if he's president. But one of the requirements, we used to call him JM, was he had to join his club. So I know JM sponsored him. So what I'm here to say is JM is deceased, and Bart's mother-in-law, Jackie Blair, she passed away this past week. Jackie Bledsoe. She was one of those strong women, and we're going to miss Jackie. So maybe, John, if we could get a sympathy card to Bart around next week, I think would be a good thing to do. So thank you very much.
Don't worry. I'm Beth O'Brock's birthday, and thank you. And even though I'm only 40, I'm contributing. Do the math.
Thank you for those brags. All right, now it's time for our program. And Jeff, would you like to introduce the program?
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Vick. I'm happy to be here today to introduce my colleagues at Roanoke College. Is the Model UN Club and course at Roanoke College. But first, I wanted to add a little personal color to this. We live in an anarchic world, right? If you go out and you look at the international system, the United States has got its role, the UK define it. But how do we work together to make things better? We do that here in civic organizations. We work with great leaders in our community. We work, we work together to make our communities better. But how do we do that on a global scale? As a U.S. representative to one of the multilateral organizations, I had to sit next to some pretty detestable people, but also figure out how we could work together despite all of our separate interests to make things better for our people. And that's what the Model UN Club seeks, all the skills to not just go on and become diplomats and politicians, but even if they go into medicine, law, the federal government, bureaucracy. I can't imagine that none of you have never had to represent your interests, either as a realtor in talking to other entities in that milieu, or as a member of the clergy talking to other churches to try and get things to do. I happen to have the honor to be with Mayor Cobb and Professor Michelachi O'Keefe here as well. And we do it in an informal fashion. We try and work with other cities around the world to increase understanding. Well, how do we develop the skills to do that? And that's what that's O'Keefe, as well as Catherine McElfresh, are here to talk to you about today. So first of all, these two fine people are going to come up and give you a presentation about the Roanoke College Model United Nations program.
Hi, thank you for having us here today. It's really a pleasure to share about what we do at Roanoke College and with Model United Nations. I'm in International Relations at Roanoke College. I'm the chair of the Public Affairs Department, but I'm here today as the advisor of the Model UN Club and also as a former Model UN student a long time ago. So what is Model UN? Model UN is a simulation and it's a global relations of the United Nations. So students go to conferences and they represent countries and they debate policy. They make deals with each other. It's all a lot of fun. So what I want to do is correct two misconceptions only about international relations and only for international relations students. So Catherine, are you an international relations student? Are you a political science student? No, but you're here and you're the president of the club. And the reason why she's here is because in this club, she's learning how to meet people, how to listen to humans, how to win arguments, how to make friends and create collaborations and partnerships. So it's a really great opportunity to learn. And the other misconception I want to address is the United Nations is really pointless. They don't end up accomplishing anything. So why go spend so much organization? So yes, the United Nations as an organization doesn't really seem effectual in the sense that we'd expect them to be. So sometimes they don't accomplish much, sometimes they accomplish nothing, but there's nuance to them together, talk to each other. So by participating, the students gain a little bit of understanding of these nuances of what happens globally. But what I find even more important is that they learn how to make organizations more effective and how to be efficient and effective members of organizations. So by being part of something that doesn't always work, they're learning to perhaps develop and act in ways that can make things happen. So we want to spread people as possible. And last year, our students were at a conference and they thought, we do this in college, but what if we were able to offer this opportunity to middle school and high school students in Roanoke? So from that kind of broad question, this year we're organizing at Roanoke College to come and participate. So if you hear of anybody talking about this, please encourage them. If you know middle schoolers and high schoolers, please encourage them. Next year, we're planning to work with the school system a little bit better to organize. And the last thing I want to say is another perk of being part of Model United Nations, and what I really enjoy seeing is students, so young people interacting with talk at these conferences for 3, 4, 5 days. They're in session the entire day. They start at 8 in the morning and sometimes their negotiations go to 10, 11 at night. And during that time, they have to talk to what they want because in the end, they have to write a resolution that they produce together. So in today's world of a lot of social media and online communication, this is an opportunity for face-to-face interaction. That's really great. And with that, I'm going to invite Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. My name is Catherine McElfresh. I am the president and head delegate of Model UN at Roanoke, and I'm currently a junior, so I've still got a year and a half left of school to go. Science major. I'm actually a history and religion major, concentrating in classics in the medieval world. So that's not even like anything related to Model UN, you'd think, but I actually use a lot of the skills that I use in Model UN in my classes as well, and vice versa. I'll for that. But if you saw the title slide, you can see just how many students we have in our club. We've got international relations, but we also have a film studies major and several different areas of study, and we're all using these skills individually. So as the professor said, Model United Nations is a simulation of the United Nations, and we also to connect information. Next slide, please. So we can interact with everywhere around the world. So the picture on the left is actually, that was my first Model United Nations conference in person. That's in New York City a few other year, and getting to meet new people in conference, but it's also getting to learn how to interact in a new place on a shorter time scale than if we were to study abroad for a semester or a year. The picture, I got to hold council there for a week as well. Next slide. So we're both a club and a class. So students who participate for the entire full year get a half class credit as well. And as I talked about, we've got people in a variety of majors. Next slide, please. Relations and diplomacy. It also builds confidence, public speaking skills, strengthens our research skills. That's a big one that I think a lot of people forget or don't realize how important it actually is. But since I've been doing what's actual facts and what is just hearsay, and being able to find what's most important has increased exponentially. I've had multiple professors tell me that my papers have gotten better once I've been able to figure out how I research that. And it also teaches negotiation and compromise and writing skills, because we are writing draft resolutions on various issues, and we're trying to create a single resolution for an entire council of 190 if everyone's there. And it's difficult to do, especially when everyone's different, but it teaches us how to do that properly without the real world impact be implemented correctly. So it gives us that cushion, but still teaches us how to do that properly. Next slide, please. So our spring semester, this semester we're doing 2 one-day conferences for middle and high schoolers as training conferences where they're going to participate alongside our own delegate, South Carolina, where we will be representing Egypt on 8 councils. These include Palestinian affairs, political affairs, social affairs, environmental, joint defense, and technology. And it's a wide mixture of different areas as well, which is very helpful. Next slide. So we're inviting middle and high schoolers to our training conference, and we're starting with the United Nations Environment Assembly because in my experience, it's been a little less divisive, so it's a little easier to work toward about parliamentary procedure, how to properly write resolutions, and to gain confidence in a way where it's not a room of 190, it's a room of 40 or 50. Work up to it instead of having to just immediately be thrown into a big one. So I started Model UN in high school over COVID. So all of it was virtual, and needless to say, a lot of people weren't actually participating. In fact, I was the only delegate on my council participating on the second one, which is really fun when you're doing a crisis simulation of World War I, the first one I was assigned. But that was an experience, and I stuck with it. I was like, how is this different in person? Surely people are actually going to be participating, right? And they were, really, because I'd only done it virtually. I got to college and I had to be taught everything from scratch. And the hope of doing this is so that even if these middle and high schoolers don't decide to continue with Model UN, they've still got those skills. But if they do continue, they already have a boost to know the proper way to participate instead of just being thrown in blind and having to learn as they go along, which is upsetting. So yeah, next slide, please. I've already talked a little bit about those councils. So these 3 pictures are the 3 we've done in the last 2 years since I've been here, because it's the pictures I had. So going from left to right, we've represented adding Egypt to the list in this coming year, but I know we've also represented some of the less affluent countries as well. So it's also a good mix to learn and realize the differences between the affluent versus non-affluent countries and what they can support and what they need as well, because it's something in the US we don't always think of. We always think of what the US needs and don't always realize that others don't have the same technologies or skills. So these are pictures from the Erfurt Germany conference in last November. You can see we were in committee, but we also were able to explore and have fun. A highlight especially was going to see Point Alpha, because it was a way to see how the Germans saw the US at the time of the Cold War. And I was struck by how similar, yet how very different the army base was to the ones we can see in the US, and especially with the museum aspect and what they decided to highlight versus what we see in the US. And it just completely changed how I thought about the Cold War, because how we're taught US centric. We don't learn about what was in Germany really, but to see it firsthand and see the differences was a big deal. Another thing is we went to Wartburg Castle. I'm a religion major, but I'm not Christian. I didn't realize how big the roads they had to take to hide Martin Luther, to keep him from being put on trial. And so even these small things make a bigger difference in our education as well. And next slide, please. And finally, like being in committee, it's also, we get to have fun as part of these conferences. And I'm in touch with several of the students who have already graduated Connection. Thank you.
Is there any questions? Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Repeat the question again.
So the question was if this is something at all colleges. It is not. There are a lot of colleges that do have it, but not all of them. I know when I was doing my college search, about half did or not. So it's also not always one that everyone can see from the outside.
At Roanoke College, we've been doing this for 42 years now. So we've been doing it for a long time. And just to give you a sense of scale, when they go to the New York City conference, they're from all over the world. So people are doing this different places. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
We were asked if we were able to make headway with Roanoke City schools to have them participate. And we've made some contacts with some schools. Somebody is going to come and observe where they want to do it all over, like at all the middle schools next year. But if you have any contacts, that would help too.
Yes, thank you for those questions. First of all, having to learn about the background of Egypt, which is what they're doing right now to prepare for Model Arab League, is a leverage points are. Or later, if they happen to become a diplomat. And even if they don't, if they're in business, you want to understand who you're doing business with, right? We do have Fleming High School is going to be participating, but we don't yet have more comprehensive coverage from either Roanoke County or Roanoke City School District. So we would appreciate your help in spreading the word. This is a really great opportunity for a middle schooler to learn about the world and learn how to handle themselves and dealing in tough situations with the intimidating Catherine McElfresh. No, she's great, really. And but when she's advocating for Egypt and you're sitting there as a middle schooler, now the middle schooler may be representing Syria, and Egypt and Syria, how do they work together? They're going to figure out what it's like to be on the other side of those sorts of conversations. So
about middle schools and high schools participating. Usually to go to the national and regional conferences, the fees are in the $500 to $1,000 per delegation. At Roanoke College, we're able to offer it for $20 per delegation, and we're throwing in lunch. So we're trying to make it inclusive and not cost prohibitive. We want everybody to have an opportunity to at least try it out and then decide whether it's for them or not.
Thank you. Let's give them a round. You like to come up? Dr. O'Keefe and Catherine have asked that their honorarium go to Roanoke College. Yeah. Thank you. That's quite a topic today. So next week, B Services, the CEO, John Morris, will be our program, and he'll be introduced by Keith Hartman. Keith waved at me. So that's great. So if nothing else, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.